Yes. Greetings, this is Zariyah from the Orion civilization. Thank you for gathering here today to listen to a brief transmission on the topic of navigating discord. We have noticed that at this time there is a ratcheting up of discord, of frustration, of difficulties in communication between different groups of people who essentially have a similar end goal on the planet. Last week, we were talking about clearing out the channels for effective communication with extraterrestrial beings. However, in order to do that, you need to also become aware of how you navigate the waves of discord intra your own populations and groups. One of the issues that is causing the discord between people is an inability to look at the broader matrix of somebody else's experience. That is because you are only coming to terms with now the broader picture of your own experience. As you start to come into awareness of your multidimensional selves, as you start to connect with your counterparts, with your guides, with your ancestors in your galactic family, you start to become aware that the everyday actions and the little life that you are living here in this time, space, reality, in this physical form, is but a part of your broader story. You are part of a team, and that team is in communication. That team is deploying a broader mission than your mental mind can understand right now. And as you come into awareness of that, we would ask you to hold space for the reality that you are not the only one who is part of a broader narrative. In fact, everybody that you meet is part of a broader narrative themselves that they may not fully understand. Everybody is taking actions to reconcile lessons, to communicate between timelines, to bring through knowledge and light from other dimensions. That is a hell of a task. And if you keep your eyes focused only on this narrow framework, on this reduced time-space reality prism, then it becomes very difficult to allow people to be their most expansive and complicated selves. When you cast your eye upon someone who is doing something that you find difficult to accept, pause, allow yourself to realize that there may be more going on in their story than you can really comprehend, that they have made agreements and contracts, that they have other timelines that they are working with as well as you do. And that all of that has come to Earth here to play out now in this time-space reality. How extraordinary that there is so much going on, and what your mental mind can perceive is really only a one-dimensional view of things. And as you start to peel back the layers, as you start to really learn how to see past the third dimension into the fourth and fifth dimension, into multiple personalities and parallel lives, into the experiences of your counterparts, you will grow more expansive and more flexible in your understanding of how other people need to be. We do hope that this helps you to relax into the broader framework of what is the significant discord of this time-space reality in this exact moment. If you do have any questions, we would be delighted to respond.
So any specific point on how can we maintain personal harmony while facing discord in various aspects of life?
Yes, there are two important things to try to recall when you are feeling that internal distress. The first is to be transparent with the truth of who you are. Your experience, your reaction, your response, your energy field is perfect. And it needs to be shared transparently so that other people can observe who you really are. The second component of that is to accept that you do not know what are the causes, the larger causes that are informing some of the choices that others are making. Those choices are valid, however difficult that might be to get your head around. There are agreements, there are contracts, there are willing participants in the integration process of all of galactic history into the Earth's grid. How extraordinary. And this is all being conducted by human beings, by animal brethren, by galactic family, by interdimensionals, extraterrestrials, plant form, all at the same time integrating your universal history. So when you reduce somebody else's actions to a very small right or wrong in your eyes right now at this time, you are really cutting yourself off from all of the knowledge of context of what is really going on Earth right now. So we ask you to focus on two things. Be yourself, transparently yourself, but also allow for the realization that you do not necessarily know why someone is behaving the way that they are, and that their choices are valid in the context of their timelines and their Earth mission. Does that help?
Yes, sure. And what is the role of effective communication in navigating discord and fostering harmony?
The first point to make around effective communication is that you are collectively tapping into your ability of telepathy. Telepathy is the ability to communicate without words through the heart mind. The reason that you are tapping into telepathy is because you can feel now the collective experience more deeply as you see other people in situations that you imagine are very difficult. You feel in your heart center sorrow and compassion, and you want to project that out to soothe the experience that you feel they are going through. That is the beginning stages of telepathy. And you can see this rising on the planet, rising as a wave of collective understanding of the experience of the other. And inside that tidal wave of collective understanding is the kernel of how to really communicate interdimensionally and extraterrestrially. If you can develop telepathy between your human brethren and between your fur friends and between plant, flora, fauna, Gaia, communicating past language and in through the channel of the spirit, that is where you will find your roadmap to communication with extraterrestrials. That is why we follow the transmission on Contact Ready with a transmission on navigating discord. Because if you are not able to find a way to transparently communicate through the discord with your fellow human beings on the planet at this time, You are unlikely to develop sufficiently sophisticated communication patterns to communicate openly with extraterrestrials. And that is, of course, the most exciting show in town.
Wonderful.
It is a practice of staying very centered, checking, are you transparent? Am I confident to communicate who I really am, how I really feel? And am I confident that I can hold space for who other people really are and how they really feel without slipping into the narrow framework of my own judgments? Does this make sense?
Yes. So, Zariyah, in the face of disagreement, how can one approach conflict resolution with a harmonious mindset?
The first thing is to not invalidate how you feel. Don't oppress how you feel. Allow how you feel to be perfectly appropriate to the circumstance. And in that spirit of allowing how you feel to be appropriate, you can more confidently hold that space for the realization that people feel all sorts of things and that all sorts of things are appropriate. This is one of the most difficult challenges for human beings on the planet historically, because you are so practiced at dividing yourself into camps based on all sorts of phenomena, based on religious ideas, based on ideas of territory, based on ideas of nationality, based on ideas of fundamental rightness or wrongness. But never before has there been on the planet such a feeling of fatigue with that endless process of sifting and sorting people into categories. You have been around this mulberry bush before, several times, and the last time you went around it in such a way resulted in the fall of Atlantis. And so that is what you are not doing as a collective this time. Instead of burrowing into your division, you are actually finding a way to build bridges to the new earth. And by the new earth, we mean an earth that has ascended in vibration sufficiently to take its place in galactic civilization. That is really a lot of information for you to interpret. But what we would say is that as you practice the reality of undoing the pattern of judgment, of othering, you will build the bridge towards galactic communication. And of course, the evolution of your species to Homo galacticus. Does this make sense? Or again, we have possibly gone too big.
I'll have to listen to it again. So, so how does one differentiate between a healthy debate and a destructive discord?
You can differentiate by the depth to which you can experience compassion for the other. Where debate has gone wrong, and of course, there is nothing wrong with contrast. Contrast is the great teacher on planet Earth. It is through contrast that you learn to ascend. From the Orion civilization, I can say it was through millennia of contrast that we learned how to raise our own vibration out of the circumstance that we found ourselves in. It was only through contrast that that was possible. So there is nothing wrong with contrast, but where contrast leads you to condemnation of the other, then you are, in a sense, although it is a valid choice, going backwards. And by going backwards, we mean lowering your vibrational frequency range. If you have verbose discussion, robust discussion, and it leads you to greater comprehension of the reality of the other, greater understanding and compassion for the experience of the other, then you are, through contrast, raising your vibration. If you sense that you are not quite capable of managing your emotions in this way, it is always better to pause and tell yourself, how I feel is okay. I can be transparent about that, and I can allow somebody else to be transparent about how they feel. It is not going to be a silver bullet, because there is a certain amount of birthing that needs to happen through the contrast that is on the planet right now. If you look at any birthing process, there is a certain amount of contrast involved. But you are evolving into something else through this contrast. Allow it to push you towards a higher vibrational frequency range. Allow it to connect you more, not less. Accept that challenge rather than having it push you down into more incomprehension of the other, more disdain of the other, more isolation from source.
So, Zariyah, are there any universal principles or spiritual laws or rituals that you can guide us in maintaining harmony?
Yes, we would say that every civilization in galactic history that has gone through conflict, war, oppression, violence, and contrast has ultimately emerged into wholeness by finding empowerment by going in. This is one of the most difficult lessons for the human race, because when human beings experience strong emotions, and please understand that human beings are teachers to the rest of galactic family about how to manage strong emotions. But nevertheless, when they experience strong emotions, they tend to take impulsive actions. And often those actions are contrary to other beings. It is from the Orion civilization, in particular, those who teach the Orion light, that you can understand that that strong instinct within you is like a lighthouse for you to navigate inwards, to recognize that it is inwards that you do the work, to raise your vibration to such a place that you can choose an action that is in alignment with harmony and with source. That is the difference between action and reaction. If you look on Earth right now, you have a veritable spiral of reaction and very little considered action towards source. The only way you can achieve that harmonious action towards source is to take that moment to retreat into your vibrational frequency chamber, the heart center, and ask yourself, what is it that I'm acting upon here? Am I acting in such a way as to raise my vibrational frequency range to something that is going to lift up others around me, to something that is going to increase the possibility of contact? Or am I reacting to an emotional impulse that is being triggered within me by outside sources. You see, there are forces on earth who do seek to trigger emotional reactions in you because it gives them control over your physical form. And it is your responsibility to, in that sense, take your power back. And taking your power back is not a violent resistance. Taking your power back is learning to control your own vibrational frequency range so that it is outside the reach of those who would want to pull you like a puppet. Puppet on a string. What does that bring? Now, has that been of any assistance at all? Or do you still feel mired in discord?
Great. So it would be great if you can share some stories, of your planet, of which will illustrate the theme of harmony in chaos.
Yes. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there was a civilization called Orion. Orion has been recounted in stories as a somewhat malevolent, dark energy civilization. And we say no. We feel overwhelming beauty when we reflect on the story that is the Orion Enlightenment. Because certainly we had in our civilization forces that sought to use conflict and response to conflict to control the beings in that civilization. There were wars that went on for eons, and they were not just within the Orion civilization, but they were interplanetary wars. We had a system that was, in many respects, fearsome. And we went around and around the cycle of provocation and reaction, provocation and reaction. And there is very interesting, passionate stories in that. There is great learning and unfolding in that dichotomy. However, it wasn't until slowly we had factions of groups of Orion spiritual guides, understanding that you break the system from within. And it's not about breaking the system, it's about rising above the system to generate something new. You certainly have a famous saying on your planet attributed to a mad Professor Einstein, that you cannot create the solution from the same place that you have created the problem. And this is really the lesson of the Orion civilization, that by raising your vibration into a different frequency range, you see broader, you change your reality, in fact. And that is how you resolve conflict. Not by staying in the vibration of conflict, but by raising your frequency to the vibration of harmony. You may hear people say that the opposite of order is chaos, and we say no, the opposite of order is harmony. That sweet spot, that orchestra, that frequency range where everybody is in tune with expansion, rather than the frequency range where everybody is in tune with destruction. And ultimately, the reason why this path is available to those who seek to raise their vibration is because you have a natural affinity with harmony. And that is why we say, be transparent in your feelings. When you observe conflict, when you observe impoverishment of others on the planet, it causes disharmony within you. It is not your preference. And that is a good indicator that the frequency range of harmony is waiting for you to align with it. And that is how you diminish, dissolve discord. So what we would ask you to do as a very simple tool is to, when you feel the discord rise between you and someone and rise inside of you, allow it to rise and ask yourself, am I being transparent with how I'm feeling? Am I able to allow the other person to be transparent with how they are feeling? And perhaps you aren't. And perhaps that's how you feel. And that's already a leap in frequency range. That's already a better avenue for communication. Does this help?
Yes, this does. Jackie has a question. Jackie, you can go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you. I think I've got a couple, and I think you may have already answered them kind of in some kind of ways, but I feel as though since I have been unlocking these genetic memories and codes and awakening and remembering, so on and so forth, and really, really delving into the depths of myself, the expansiveness of myself, my shadow, my light, and all of the different possibilities, I've started to discover that there's been a pendulum swing happening between light and dark within me. And so within this pendulum swing, there's such a huge, drastic shift and juxtaposition between my experiential reality within moment to moment. And it can be quite full on in terms of then what's happening around me being harmonized and filled with love, but then also swinging back into that fear state, so on and so forth, as I reckon with these realities and definitions. So I was wondering if you can speak of that kind of pendulum swing the further I'm moving towards the precipice of self-discovery, and continuing on that journey, how to navigate the drastic pendulum swings between the experiences between dark and light.
Yes. For you, Jackie, we would say that since around 2022, you have been going through a profound integration. And by integration, often you will have people on your planet talk about light and dark, the shadow self, and so on. But really, integration is much bigger than that. That is why we do talk about coming to awareness of how many beings are filtering into your here and now. You have counterparts. You have ancestors and guides. You have extraterrestrial family, not just connections, family. This is part of your contribution to the hybrid program. As a result of that, integration is not just about dark and light, which it is also, and we do not discredit that, but it is about really coming to an understanding of who you are. You are so much bigger than you have been led to believe. And the veil is coming off, really, your third eye. And in recognizing that, and you are only allowing yourself to recognize that in stages, because if you could allow yourself to see that all at once, it would, in a sense, perhaps fracture your psyche. We do have to keep a tether to this 3D reality as we transition through to 4 and 5D, because if not, we become incapable of functioning. But what we would say is that the process of integration is exactly as you have described, a pendulum that seems to swing wildly, but then settles. Pendulums always do, and swings wildly and then settles, and you integrate more and more and more. The thing that is missing from the analogy of the pendulum is that it is the same pattern all the time. What we would offer you is a spiral. What you are doing is spiraling wide and integrating and coming in and spiraling wide and integrating counterparts, their experiences, their information, galactic family, ancestors. Here I am now. What is this history? Who is this person? Spiraling wide and coming in, but the whole time up. And that is the process of ascension. A spiral that moves in and out, and the whole time frequency rising up. That is the process of awakening. It is more than a flashing open third eye and an ayahuasca experience. It is the integration of the true nature of reality into your here and now moment, which is, in fact, literally and metaphorically mine. Does that help?
It really helps a lot, and that's very much been an affirming answer in so many different ways. And I think that's explained a lot, but I do have one more question, which may be related to that spiral experience. I have been wondering, because obviously we, as the world being reflections of ourselves and our interdimensional relationships, so on and so forth, I have been wondering if lately during my expansion period, I have been adopting and taking on the stories of other people that aren't mine. And that includes both the positive experiences and the darker, more negative experiences as well.
It's not so much, we understand what you mean by when you say adopting the experience of others. But that is really a 3D way of looking at it, because when you hear perhaps New Agers talking about taking on other people's energy and protecting yourself from taking on other people's energy for positive or negative purposes, what they are missing is that there is, in fact, realities that you are also in now that are not exclusively this reality. So what we mean when we talk about counterparts is that there are other yous that exist on other timelines, not other yous necessarily specifically Jackie, but other fragments of yourself, other personalities of your oversoul that are on other timelines, and you are communicating. Typically, that communication has taken place in the dreamscape and perhaps in flashes when people have psychedelic experiences and so on. But now the floodgates are, so to speak, open, and people are communicating with other parts of themselves on other timelines fairly openly in waking daylight. And it is a very strange experience. That is one facet of the reality that you're experiencing, coming to awareness that you are more than just Jackie on this timeline in this time-space reality, but also understanding that there is a collective process of connecting to the other in a more empathetic way. And that is what we were discussing before about the development really of the skill of telepathy. So there is some debris in the communication, we would say, because you are doing things perhaps for the first time. This has really only been going on, we would say, for you in a very central way since 2022, that you are really experiencing the lessons and the realities of your counterparts. And so it does take some sorting, of course. But we would say to you, allow, the way through is to allow that. Don't try to keep it at bay. Allow it to surprise you. Allow there to be some gray area. Is it somebody else's or is it a counterpart? Right now, it doesn't necessarily matter, because as you get better at communicating with all forms of life, those who take physical form in 3D and those who are non-physical in 5D, and your galactic family, it will become clearer and clearer and easier to discern when you are having empathy for another sovereign being and when you are communicating with another part of yourself in another dimension. Does this make sense?
It really, really does make sense, and it kind of makes sense a lot in terms of how I've been feeling and how we are more and more beginning to rely on each other to alchemize the process and spiral the process as well.
Yes, yes. And we commend you for putting it that way, that this is a community effort. The ascension of Earth is really not even just about the human race. It is interspecies communication. Your whale and dolphin friends, your tree and elemental friends, they are all in on the conversation as well. So if you feel sometimes a little bit overwhelmed, you can also say, today I want just clear 3D. I don't want to download anything from my counterparts. I don't want to talk to any plants. I just want to have a day where I stay in 3D and recuperate some energy, zone out, if you will. But don't stay there, because the adventure that you came for is just beginning.
Thank you. And if it's okay, Liz, I'll just have one question and then I'll pass it on. One more. Is that okay with everyone?
That's okay. Yep, that's okay.
Thank you. So I was visited by a very, very small extraterrestrial being, which I believe to be one of my hybrid children. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about them. I feel like I was in some kind of vortex, and then a portal opened and I could see this really, really cute, small extraterrestrial being with their small spaceship behind them, and they were looking and saying hello, and I know I can feel them with me, and sometimes mediumistically or clairvoyantly I can kind of feel their energy blending with mine. But if they had any if there are any messages around how to develop or respond to that connection and relationship at all.
They are saying, cute? Who, me? Yes, it is a message from your hybrid, not child, children. Mm-hmm. You have been, of course, and most people who are waking up, quote unquote, at this time have connections to the hybrid program. The reason you are waking up at this time is because it will be important for you to be open about your journey as you understand it with hybridization, because we are at a time when we can expect open contact with the hybrid children in a 10, 15-year window. And who do you think they will be communicating first? Family. So this was a message for you from your hybrid children to remind you of what you have already created without even being consciously aware of it. You have created hybrid family. And that is why it is important that you continue with your unfolding and expanding over the next 2-3 years in particular, because you are laying the groundwork to make that relationship real and physical on the new earth. How exciting. I am counting. Woo! Are you ready? 18 hybrid children. You have been busy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow, wonderful. Liz, would you like to go next?
Yes. So back to the topic of the harmony in chaos. I would like a piece of advice, I guess, would probably benefit a lot of people and or people who will listen or who are listening to this catch up. So I'd like to know your advice on the practical things that we all can do on a daily basis to raise or to maintain our vibrational frequency range.
Yes. One thing we do have coming in that we would like to share is that when you are seeing others suffer, it is really an opportunity for you to reflect on times in your life where you have been in what you would consider a victim position, where you have been vulnerable to the actions of others, and offer yourself open-hearted compassion and kindness, care and forgiveness. The most terrifying space for human beings is vulnerability. And when you are vulnerable to the actions of others, you feel very disempowered. And it is that that is being triggered when you cast your eyes on the situations of other human beings in the planet who are right now in those circumstances. We would encourage you to understand that it is the part of every human journey to experience that on some level, because it teaches you compassion, and you will be the teachers of compassion to all of galactic civilizations. It is your ability to look at the situation of another and feel deep in your heart love, care, concern, and generosity. That is the jewel of the human condition. But it makes you vulnerable, and often that provokes fear. So what we would say to you is, when you are responding with anger, you are really just using a defense to hide your fear that is triggered by your vulnerability. Being compassionate is not always an easy road, but we would ask you to really dig into that. And you dig into that, as we said last week, by bringing it back to your heart. The organism of the human heart is one of the most miraculous organisms in the galactic sphere today. You often see people talk about crystals as amplifiers, talk about oils as balms, talk about liquids such as water as life-giving, but nothing is so life-giving, so amplifying, so soothing in its potential as the human heart. So if you can sit in that when you feel vulnerable, angry, afraid, and allow yourself to just wait until that beat of your heart begins to be heard in your inner ear, and marvel that that pump inside you can amplify out an energetic frequency range which can change the world. That is what we would ask you to do. Focus on the heart. And the other thing is, if you try to focus in your heart center and you become angry and you become frustrated and you sit in judgment of another, let it go. You are in extremely chaotic times. They are designed to trigger you in this way. And it would not be reasonable to always be acting as Buddha on the mountaintop, because Buddha, as he sat under the tree, did not have a social media. He did not have images flooding into his reality of what was taking part on all corners of your planet. He did not have sophisticated artificial intelligence designed to trigger in him specific emotional responses. No, you are living in a complicated 3D world. Relationships are challenging to navigate in these times. So forgive yourself and return to the heart. Forgive another person and return to the heart. You will find that over time, your capacity to hold a steady vibrational frequency range in the face of contrast will grow exponentially. And it is that heart that beats in you when it beats in unison with the pulse of the planet. That is where you have the orchestra of life that is possible. And that orchestra of life forms the Om sound that is the womb of the universe. And that is the channel to communication with all other sentient beings. Not to make it too big again, but I hope that helped.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Okay, so one final question. How can the concept of flow be applied to navigate discord in both personal and professional settings?
Yes, flow is something that you have tried to describe from the vantage point that you cannot really see energy in the way that you will be able to see energy. You feel it as a sensation. Flow is the energetic unfolding that a poet feels, that an artist feels, that a dancer feels. It's some indescribable energy that moves through a person as they undertake an activity. If you can tap into the frequency range of that particular activity, you can easily tap into the flow. At the moment, most people on your planet experience it spontaneously as if it's something that has overtaken them. But really, you are the captain of that ship. And that is why we ask you to return to the practice of raising your vibrational frequency range. Because as you learn to tune in to frequency ranges, you can tune in to the flow of miraculous and amazing things at will. The energy of creativity is the closest language that we can use to describe the essence of source energy. Prime creatrix is creative flow. War is a destructive energy. Art is a creative energy. So the flow of creation is the vibrational counterpoint to the destruction of war. And again, we say, as you become practiced at raising your vibrational frequency range, you will have before you a veritable buffet of flows to choose from. Does that make sense?
Yes. So Liz has a final question and then we can end the session.
Yes.
Thanks, Samir. I wonder if I could connect to my spiritual guide or guardian angel that we spoke last week.
Yes, she is here, Frida. She is delighted that you received the message with such recognition, because she is just holding up a mirror for you of what you already know. But she is insistent that you start to move in that direction, that is a flow, given that we were just talking about that she is encouraging in you the recognition that you have these skills and abilities that have been dormant and waiting to be unlocked. And she is encouraging that you unlocked them and move forward with them, because you also, Liz, are somebody who is connected to the gridding of a new earth. Most human beings who have proclivities in this direction, in terms of a intuitive, psychic, spiritual, seeing, mystic capacity, have got a part to play in the bringing in of the new earth. And Frida has been twiddling her thumbs, hoping for you to make that leap into your future self, where you allow what has been a passion for you in the past to be a very big fixture in your future. Does that make sense?
Yes. And also like advice on the race that I'll be doing this Sunday and also next month.
It is a perfect metaphor for the energy that she has been embodying for you on your spiritual path. It is to be diverse, it is to be strident, it is to be strong and committed. It is to be empowered and to feel the satisfaction of being multi-capable in your physical body. And that she would ask you to recognize you can be multi-capable in your spiritual body as well. You've got this.
Thank you.
If nobody has any further questions.
Ash, I'm tempted to ask, what is my guiding angel saying right now?
Samia, you have timeline hopped this month in terms of your frequency range. You were becoming mirrored in some of the 3D vibrations, which is in itself a learning experience, but you have taken a significant jump in the past 12 days. There has been enormous interaction in your dreamscape. You have been batting back and forth ideas, batting back and forth conversations with Ariella, but she is indicating that you are now discarding the things that are no longer serving you with a degree of ease that is new. She is showing an image of you walking along a pier for a long time, walking along a pier with a jacket, the wind in your face, pushing against the wind. And then all of a sudden, in the last few steps, you have got to the end of the pier and you've stepped off, but instead of falling, you've started walking up in the air and into the sky. Skywalker, Samia. How exciting.
Absolutely exciting. Absolutely exciting. So my wife is also sitting next to me and she's asking, is her guiding angel telling something to her? What is it?
We are tuning into an energy of green, but we will have to leave this to the next transmission as the channel is fatiguing.
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zariyah.
Good day.
It's been a great session. Green.
Bye, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, God, I'm so glad that you were able to ask some questions. That's so great. I'm so sorry, Samir, at the end, I was starting to come back in. Please tell your wife I'll definitely do a session with her yeah, I'm really sorry. I just felt that it was already breaking apart.
That's no worries. We have a new guest, Elaine, also with us, who just joined 5-10 minutes back.
Hi, Elaine. How you doing? Oh, you didn't get to ask a question.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I missed the whole thing because I guess daylight savings time wasn't taken into consideration. You should have been starting now for me.
I'm sorry. Where are you?
I'm in Pennsylvania in the United States.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Okay,
okay.
but I didn't write it correctly then, you know. I just wrote the New York Times, not
It's the
considering.
same. It's the same, but it's daylight savings time, so it's different. You give the New York time that's standard time.
Okay.
But we're using daylight savings time. It's a stupid thing. I hate it, but you know, that's what they do.
Don't worry, I can never figure it out. We have daylight savings too, and I never know for like weeks whether I'm coming or going or like.
I know,
but
I know. It does a strange thing to time.
It does a strange thing to my life as well. Like, and light, you know, like you don't know, like it's just very discombobulating.
Is there going to be a recording of this? I can watch it later.
Yes, Elaine, we have the recording for this, and I'll be sharing it online. I'll share it on the Facebook link, and you can watch it. You know, you can just click it, and you'll get it on YouTube. Then you can watch it from there.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I've missed these. So, how is the new addition to your family?
Yeah, she's so gorgeous, you know, and I just felt for whatever reason I was not able to, you know, do galactic channeling, you know, because I had this beautiful little girl and she's just like absolutely perfect, you know.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Biased, you know,
that's interesting though, because whenever I have had, I have 6 children, and whenever I just
really
gave birth, oh yeah, but they're all grown up. But it was like
wow,
a channel was open when I gave birth. I found that it's easier to get to the other side when there's a birth or a death that's close to you.
Yes, that makes sense. You know, I was surprised that I felt like that capability was kind of just shut down a little bit. But wow, Elaine, 6 children, hats off to you. Oh my goodness. I just think having one, I felt like, oh my God, this is such a full-on experience, you know. So 6
you get
incredible.
Used to it. Yeah. I'm an astrologer and I just loved having babies and doing their charts and then seeing what happened.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
In the session that he's got 18.
I know. I've just found out that I've got 18 hybrid children. So
yes.
I've been busy bee. Yeah. One of mine came to visit me, and I didn't know at first because I didn't know about hybrid children. I just thought, oh, I'm doing a little bit of galactic travel at the moment, and this random little ET is looking at me, you know what I mean? And things like that. And then when I heard more about Bashar's teaching, I thought, it clicked in. I thought, I wonder if that's one of my children. So,
oh, that's so cool. That is so great.
I think afterwards also is equally interesting, and it's being recorded, so I'm going to upload that too. I'll stop the recording now, though.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks, Samir.
Thank you, everyone, for this amazing.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Elaine. I'm sorry about the time difference, but we'll
that's okay. I'll see you next time. Please come back whenever you can.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Elaine, we are doing every Friday. Okay, we are doing every Friday, Elaine. I'll share the
really?
time. Yes, we are doing every Friday. So if I'm posting the Australian time, so just convert it from Australian time to the US time and just log in.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
So you know there could be this.
I'll look to see if it's the time is nuts. I'm on it now.
The Melbourne time will always be correct. So if you look for 1 o'clock in Melbourne,